Mark Wahlberg. His current image is that of a fitness-first multi-millionaire whispering about prayer apps and spiritual discipline.
Join us in prayer this Lent on Hallow. Stay prayed up.
And I just find myself wondering, is this the ultimate story of redemption? Or is it the most expensive case of PR containment in Hollywood history?
To see here, please!
I have this internal debate going on. How do I reconcile the fact that my favourite film of all time stars a man whose real-life record is a catalogue of abhorrence and violence?
What? No!
'69, dudes!
Jump in a time machine with me. We're going back to 1997, 1998. I'm like 14, 15 years old, and at that age, your entire world's a currency of things you're not supposed to see or do. Sneaking a smoke, a beer, passing around some razzle mags that someone found in a plastic bag in the woods. Look, this is the period of peak playground salaciousness. Before the internet was in everyone's pockets, and before the word VPN meant anything to a teenager, we just had rumours and 18 ratings. Films like Wild Things, American Pie, Cruel Intentions, they weren't just films, they were status symbols. If you'd seen them, you were the source of truth. So there was a film called Boogie Nights about the porn industry, and it hit VHS, and it was getting shared around, and it was time to see some flesh. We went for the titillation as teenage boys. But I came out changed. It was a masterpiece. A sprawling, Scorsese-level epic about a group of wandering misfits trying to find purpose in the gutter. I've fallen in love with the world of Dirk Diggler and pals. The music, the colours, the characters. For years, I've held that film up as the gold standard. I still do. But as the world changed, information that was buried away at the time is just a single Google search away. So Boogie Nights has Jack Horner, played by Burt Reynolds, obsessed with the idea the story is what matters. He wants to make something so good the audience stays for the plot, but this is in the context of the 1970s porn industry. Jack is delusional. He's trying to find art in a medium designed for a singular physical purpose. Paul Thomas Anderson, the actual director of Boogie Nights, succeeded where Jack failed. He took the world of 1970s erotica and turned it into a 2.5-hour masterpiece. The audience is so invested in the characters, they don't care about the erotic element. The movie is a love letter to the desire to create art, even in a trashy medium. And it stars Mark Wahlberg, arguably his best role and performance. The thing is, Mark Wahlberg is only a good actor when he plays himself.
What? No!
The big success is Boogie Nights, The Departed, The Fighter. They work because he's playing a version of a Massachusetts guy who is slightly hollow, physically driven, and emotionally stunted.
I'm in Max Payne. Have you seen that movie?
When he tries to play an intellectual or sensitive soul, like a scientist in The Happening,
Toxin?
he looks like a guy trying to remember his lines rather than a guy living a life. The reason he's good in Boogie Nights is that Dirk Diggler is also a douchebag, trying to pretend he's a sensitive artist. Dirk is a hollow vessel filled up by fame, exactly what Marky Mark was in the 90s. Now look, let's just put it out there, cards on the table. I've made numerous jibes in my reviews and videos about Mark Wahlberg, and that's that internal debate or monologue I have going on. Whether you can ignore the art from the artist, or you have to embrace it all or ignore it. So let's go right for the jugular. Let's rip the band-aid off right here, right now. So to generalise Mark Wahlberg's past as troubled, that lets him off too easy. The reality, unfortunately, is a pattern of racially motivated violence. In 1986, at the age of 15, Mark Wahlberg and his friends chased a group of black fourth graders, yelling racial slurs and throwing rocks at them. The next day, he followed a group of black students on a field trip, again yelling slurs and inciting a mini riot. And then in 1988, while high on PCP, he attacked 2 Vietnamese American men, hitting one over the head with a 5-foot wooden stick while calling him a Vietnam fucking shit. Later that night, he punched another in the eye. When he was arrested, he allegedly told the officers, I don't need a motherfucker to identify me. I'll tell you now, that's the motherfucker whose head I split open. He was charged with attempted murder, but that was pleaded down to felony assault. And as shocking an incident it is, the repercussions were only really for the victims. You see, the whole thing became the jumping off point, the launch of the Marky Mark persona. See, while he was sitting in jail, his older brother Donnie Wahlberg was already a global superstar, with New Kids on the Block. Donnie reportedly invested $500,000 of his own money to launch Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. He didn't just pay for it, he co-wrote, produced the debut album. He took Mark's violent, street-level energy and polished it into a safe, macho-like version of hip-hop that suburban America could consume. His prison stint wasn't a secret to be hidden at the time, it was a feature. His PR team leaned into the tough kid from the mean streets of Dorchester narrative, gave him an authenticity that boy bands lacked. The bad boy persona made the Calvin Klein ads work. He wasn't just a model, he was a rebel with a rap sheet. In 1992, the public found the dangerous youth aesthetic seductive rather than disqualifying. You got to remember, the 90s, the information landscape, the news was filtered. Most people knew he'd been in trouble, but they didn't know the details. They knew about a neighborhood brawl. They didn't know about the racial slurs or the permanent damage to the victims. Without Wikipedia or social media, the narrative was 100% controlled by his publicists, and the 90s were obsessed with the redemption stories. If a kid from the streets made it big, we didn't ask how many people he stepped on to get there, we applauded him for escaping the gutter. And then his early acting roles weren't a stretch, they were mirrors of his reputation. Basketball Diaries 1995, a violent, drug-addicted delinquent. Fear 1996, a charming but psychopathic stalker who literally beats his own chest in a fit of macho rage. Casting directors realised he was the only actor who could play these roles with a terrifying realism, because he wasn't really acting. We like to think Mark Wahlberg's past was a hurdle he had to jump over, but that in the 90s, that past was his fuel. We're before cancel culture. Having a felony conviction wasn't a death sentence for a career, it was a marketing campaign. And in 1997, when Boogie Nights came out, the Marky Mark persona was already a phenomenon. The world didn't care about the wooden sticks, the racial slurs, they just saw the muscles, the smirk, and the tough kid who'd made it. He's the perfect example of bad timing in reverse. The darkness of his past was exactly what made him a star. He's the ultimate survivalist. He started out in the era where throwing a punch made you a star, and now he's ending in an era where saying a prayer keeps you employed. He produced Entourage to tell us how great his life was, but now that show looks like a confession of everything we hate about the bro. He's a guy who happened to be the perfect type for a perfect movie in 1997, and he's been using that interest from that performance to fund his prayer apps and his burger joints ever since. Yeah, the burger joints. You know, Wahlburgers, the casual dining burger restaurant and bar chain. It's owned by chef Paul Wahlberg and his brothers Donnie and Mark Wahlberg, the Wahlburgers. And then, 2014, we see a crack. You see, Marky Mark tried to get a formal pardon, claiming it was for closure. This was for the offences back in the 90s. But the public saw through it. Turns out, he actually needed a clean criminal record to get a liquor license for Wahlburgers in certain states. Yeah. So he eventually dropped this bid in 2016 after massive backlash. You know, it wasn't a pardon of the heart, it was a pardon of the balance sheet. In the application, he still described his history of racial violence as a single episode fueled by drugs. He's never truly acknowledged the racial nature of the crimes.
What?
Instead, he's blaming the wrong crowd or the PCP. However, it wasn't a single episode fueled by drugs. In 1992, afterwards, he was peaking in his music career as Marky Mark, and he was arrested for kicking a neighbour in the face in an unprovoked attack. He avoided jail but was ordered to do community service. It's not a one bad night on PCP, it's a pattern of physical aggression. There's also the story of the macho intimidation of teenage Kate Moss. She was 17, he was 21. They were doing the Calvin Klein's campaign. Moss revealed she was having a nervous breakdown leading up to the shoot. She had to be prescribed Valium just to get through it. She described Mark as very macho. The entire set felt like it was all about him. Travelled with a massive entourage, and according to Moss, she felt completely objectified, vulnerable and scared. And it's not just a solo act. He was known for bringing his neighbourhood crew to professional sets, creating a rowdy, intimidating atmosphere. the entourage effect.
Silk underwear. Oh, she got freckles. Next question. Oh, the best protection against AIDS is to keep your Calvins on. Now that could definitely come between me and my Calvins. Do you have Calvin Klein underwear on?
And that was the basis for the hit HBO show Entourage he produced. In the show, the crew were lovable losers. In real life, Wahlberg's crew were a group of guys involved in the 1986 and 1988 racial incidents. The character of Turtle in Entourage was based on Donnie Donkey Carroll, a man who later fell out with Wahlberg and died of an asthma attack at age 39, claiming Mark never took care of him as promised. And that show Entourage, it celebrated a bros before hoes mentality that was peak 2004 culture. Now, looking back 22 years later, Ari Gold's workplace harassment or the way women were treated as literal props feels like watching a video from a different planet. The irony that Wahlberg produced a show about how cool it is to be a rich douchebag with a crew of hangers-on right before society decided that being a rich douchebag was the number one thing they wanted to cancel.
Big your chest is.
It's not as big as yours.
Well, listen. Prove it. Here we are. Girl,
And now we're at a point where Mark's rap sheet is just one Google search away. The PR team knows this, which is why they're leaning heavily into the faith and family output. The more God that goes into his search engine optimization, SEO, the more that rocks and slurs go down. In a world of Catholic branding, he's been taken on the mantle as the face of the Hallow app, the number one Catholic prayer app. There was a Super Bowl ad for over 100 million people saw where Mark would lead a prayer. He's positioning himself as a soldier for God. He's making himself uncancelable to a huge demographic. If you attack him now, you're not just attacking a guy who threw rocks at kids, you're attacking a man of faith who has found the light.
Stay prayed up.
I'll stay prayed up. You said it. I love that. This is good. Can I say that?
Check it out. Download Hallow today.
He spent millions on this PR machine to convince us his redemption is a divine miracle. But that 2014 application proved it was just a business strategy. He didn't want the pardon for closure, he wanted it for Wahlburgers. A born-again Christian is supposed to embrace the weight of their past, use their scars as a testimony of grace. Wahlberg didn't want to carry the scars, he wanted to litigate them away. He wanted the state to formally forget the sticks and slurs so he could efficiently sell burgers with liquor to the masses. In Boogie Nights, Dirk Diggler's a man who is lost because he has no internal life, he's all surface. In 2026, it feels like Mark Wahlberg has finally found an internal life, but he's immediately put a sponsored by Halo sticker on it. Begging for forgiveness on a Sunday, lobbying for forgetfulness on Mondays. At what point does the douchebaggery of the man become so heavy that the film can no longer stay afloat? For me, Boogie Nights is the ultimate test because it's a perfect movie starring an incredibly imperfect man. People ask me why I hate Mark Wahlberg. Hate's the wrong word. Hate's too simple. It's too emotional. When I see Mark Wahlberg, it's not hate, it's indignation. It's a profound sense of moral friction. Hate implies he's just a villain, but a villain is easy to ignore. Wahlberg has done something far more sophisticated. He's turning redemption into a product. You see those ads for the Hallow app. I don't see a man who's found God. I see a man who's found the ultimate PR strategy. He's not just seeking forgiveness, he's branding it. He's flooded the digital zone with so much faith and family that the memory of him hitting a man with a wooden stick while screaming racial slurs feels like a glitch in the system rather than the foundation of a man. And there is the conundrum. In Boogie Nights, everything is true. Jack Horner's deluded quest for art, Scotty's heartbreaking loneliness, the pathetic, sweaty desperation of Dirk Diggler trying to be a star. It's all honest. It's a movie that loves its characters because of their flaws, not in spite of them. Mark Wahlberg's modern persona is the opposite of Boogie Nights. It's a sanitized corporate version of a human soul. When I sat down to watch the new 4K release of Seven, I couldn't unsee Kevin Spacey's real-world shadow. When I sat down for Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair, the ghost of Harvey Weinstein is up on the screen. We accept art is tainted. But with Wahlberg, the taint is different. He's asking people to pay $70 a year for a prayer app so he can help us find the grace he supposedly found for free. He's not just an actor in a great movie anymore. He's a man trying to sell us the very idea of being a good person but his own past remains an unpardonable felony that he tried to erase for a liquor license. Hate isn't enough for that because you can ignore hate. You can't ignore the feeling that the truth I loved in Boogie Nights was just a lucky accident, a moment where a hollow man accidentally played the perfect hollow character before he learned how to fill that emptiness with a PR-approved version of himself. There's one more thing that makes it even harder to swallow. Boogie Nights isn't just a one-man show, it's quite possibly the greatest ensemble ever put to film. Wahlberg is the face on the poster, but the soul of the movie is carried by a found family. Julianne Moore as Amber Waves, the weeping maternal heart of the film, radiating a desperate, drug-addled grace that earned every bit of her Oscar nomination. Burt Reynolds, possibly a career best as Jack Horner, a man trying to maintain the dignity of a king while ruling over a kingdom of smut. The deeper you go, the more genius reveals itself. John C. Reilly as Reed Rothschild, the ultimate brother from another mother, bringing a sweetness to the screen that makes their eventual downfall actually hurt. Don Cheadle as Buck, the man who just wants to sell stereos and find a place to belong. Heather Graham as Roller Girl, capturing a haunting mix of youthful invincibility and profound insecurity. And then Philip Seymour Hoffman's Scotty, the way he vibrates with unrequited love for Dirk, the way his voice cracks when he realises he's made a fool of himself. It's almost too much to bear. Some of the most human acting ever captured on film. And that's the irony of Wahlberg's career, the empty vessel that this incredible group of people poured their talent into. Every facet of the movie is incredible, every performance is lived in. When Dirk and Reed are screaming "Feel the heat" in that studio, we aren't laughing at Mark Wahlberg. We're laughing at the tragic, beautiful stupidity of these characters that Paul Thomas Anderson loved so much. Wahlberg didn't build this masterpiece. He was just a lucky kid who was standing in the middle of the room when the lightning struck. And that's what makes his modern rebranding feel like such a portrayal of the film's spirit. The movie was about being messy, being broken, but being honest. The man he is now is about being polished, prayed up, and being contained. He's moved from a movie that celebrated the human flaw to a life that tries to pretend the flaws never existed. And here's the final bitter twist. If you go to a film festival or a late night talk show today, you see Mark Wahlberg talking about the masterpiece that gave him a career, he's not going to give you a breakdown of the cinematography or the ensemble or the music. In fact, he spent the last decade practically apologising for it.
I just always hope that God, especially as a movie fan, and also forgiving, because I've made some poor choices in my past. And
are there any movies you ever prayed for forgiveness for?
Boogie Nights is up there on the top of the list, absolutely.
Let that sink in for a second. In the eyes of the modern Mark Wahlberg, the poor choices aren't the 1986 racial slurs, the 1988 assault. Those are youthful mistakes he's asked for pardons for. No, the poor choice he's most publicly ashamed of is playing Dirk Diggler. He is disowning the only time he was ever part of something truly artistically transcendent because it doesn't fit his current brand. And maybe that's why teenage me had it right all along. See, back in 1997 we didn't care about the man, we cared about the world Jack Horner built. We cared about Reed Rothschild's friendship and Amber Waves' tears. We loved the movie because it shed a light on real people struggling in a world and coming together. It's just a shame the leading man grew up to be so afraid of that light, he had to try and bury the best thing he ever did. Mark Wahlberg is 5'8". We were Channel 69.
Would you like to know more?